Article 8, Judicial Department, 1987 Philippine Constitution. Judicial Department. The judicial power shall be vested in one Supreme Court, and in such lower courts as may be established by law. Judicial power includes the duty of the courts of justice to settle actual controversies involving rights which are legally demandable and enforceable, and to determine whether or not there has been a grave abuse of discretion amounting to lack or excess of jurisdiction on the part of any branch or instrumentality of the government. Okay? I would say that Section 1 is the most important section in Article 8. Dito, class, dinidefine kung ano yung powers ng Supreme Court. And at ang sabi rito, of course, it is very, very clear na iisa lang ang Supreme Court. Isa lang. Okay? But there are multiple lower courts. We have the Metropolitan Trial Court, the Municipal Trial Court, the Regional Trial Courts, meron din tayo, of course, Court of Appeals, meron din tayong Court of Tax Appeals. So marami tayong mga courts, but iisa lang ang Supreme Court. And for us to create a court, kailangan siyempre ng batas. At ang gumagawa niyan ay ang ating legislative power. Okay? Or legislative department. Now, when we speak of judicial power, it includes the duty of the courts to settle actual controversies. Class, pag sinabi niyong actual, dapat merong kontrobersiya, merong question, actual, nangyayari, okay? Which are legally demandable, hindi illegal. Okay? Legally enforceable, hindi illegal ang enforceability at ang demandability. Okay? And also, siyempre, kung kayo ay magrereklamo, pwede rin, kung feeling nyo merong grave abuse of discretion ang isang branch or instrumentality ng gobyerno. Okay? So, ito yung mga sinisettle ng ating korte at ng Korte Suprema. Section 2, the Congress shall have the power to define, prescribe, and apportion the jurisdiction of the various courts, but may not deprive the Supreme Court of its jurisdiction over cases enumerated in this section. No law shall be passed reorganizing the judiciary when it undermines the security of tenure of its members. Okay? So, gaya nga ng sabi natin, it is the Congress that shall have the power to define, prescribe, at hayusin ang mga jurisdiction ng bawat korte. Section 3, the judiciary shall enjoy the fiscal autonomy. Appropriations for the judiciary may not be reduced by the legislator below the amount appropriated for the previous year, and after approval shall be automatically and regularly released. Again, pera ang pinag-uusapan dito, class. So, binibigyan ng judiciary ng kanilang karapatan upang gastusin ang kanilang pera which way ever they can. Section 4, the Supreme Court shall be composed of a Chief Justice and 14 Associate Justice, total 15. Again, it may sit and bank as a group na 15 or in its discretion in division of 3, 5, or 7. Gaya nga ng nabanggit ko doon sa Legislative Department. Any vacancy shall be filled within 90 days from the occurrence thereof, kung merong bakante. Okay? So, dito, 3, 5, 7. Para yung dalawa at yung isa pwedeng bumoto pag merong deadlock sa botohan. Okay? All cases involving the constitutionality of a treaty, international or executive agreement or law which shall be heard by the Supreme Court en banc. So pag ang usapan ay constitutionality ng treaty, international or executive agreement, dapat yung buong 15. All other cases which under the rules of court are required to be heard en banc, including those involving constitutionality, application, or operation of presidential decrees, proclamations, orders, instructions, ordinances, and other regulations shall be decided with the concurrence of a majority of the members who actually took part in the deliberations on the issues in the case and voted thereon. Cases or matters heard by division shall be decided or resolved with the concurrence of a majority of the members who actually took part in the deliberations on the issues in the case and voted thereon. And in no case without the concurrence of at least 3 of such members when the required number is not obtained. Okay? So, ibig sabihin, kaya sila division, dapat majority rules. When the required number is not obtained, the case shall be decided en banc. So, pag hindi nag-meet at hindi magtali or hindi magkasundo, ipapasa to sa en banc. Yung grupo, yung 15 mismo, they will hear it among themselves. That no doctrine or principle of law laid down by the court in a decision rendered en banc or in division may be modified or reversed except by the court sitting en banc. So, kasi class, merong mga principles na nabubuo pag nagdesisyon ang Supreme Court. Sila yung nagde-define minsan ng batas. Diba? They interpret. Once na na-interpret na yon, at especially en banc ang nag-interpret. Okay? Yung buong 15 na nag-interpret na ito ang mananaig. Then, ang pwede lang mag-overthrow nung decision na yon, if not overthrow, ang pwede lang na baguhin yung definition or principle na yon, en banc din. Hindi pa pwedeng by division lang. So they just have, para magkaroon ng stability ang ating judicial system. Okay? Section 5, the Supreme Court shall have the following powers. Number 1, exercise original jurisdiction over cases affecting ambassadors and other public ministers and consuls and over petitions for certiorari, prohibition, mandamus, quo warranto, and habeas corpus. Class, I will just read this kasi this is too technical. Siyempre, pag lawyer na kayo or kayo ay mag-aabogado, ito yung mga pag-aaralan nyo. Just have to read it para sa inyo. Number 2, review, revise, reverse, modify, or affirm on appeal or certiorari as the law or the rules of court may provide. Final judgment and orders of lower courts. Okay, so yung hierarchy of courts class, siyempre, pinakamababa is the municipal trial court. Tapos, pag yung decision ng municipal trial court, aakyat yun sa regional trial court. Kung hindi magkasundo sa baba at ayaw paniwala, siyempre, sa regional trial court, aakyat sa Court of Appeals. Kung hindi nagkasundo doon sa regional trial court, doon sa Court of Appeals, doon ulit magsasampa ng kaso. Now, pagkatapos ng Court of Appeals, Supreme Court na class. Now, when we speak of Supreme Court at nagdesisyon ng Supreme Court, whether you like it or not, wala na tayong choice doon. Yun ay ultimate. Kailangan na rin tumigil ang asunto o ang kaso at one point. So, it is the Supreme Court that will decide with finality kung hanggang saan talaga ang kaso. Okay? So, all cases in which the constitutionality or validity of any treaty, international or executive agreement, law, presidential decree, proclamation, order, instruction, ordinance, or regulation is in question. All cases involving the legality of any tax, imposed assessment or toll, or any penalty imposed in relation thereto. All cases in which the jurisdiction of any lower court is in issue. All criminal cases in which the penalty imposed is reclusion perpetua or higher. All cases in which only an error or question of law is involved. Of course, number 3, assign temporarily judges of lower courts to other stations as public interest may require. Such temporary assignment shall not exceed 6 months without the consent of the judge concerned. Order a change of venue or place of trial to avoid a miscarriage of justice. So, pwedeng ilipat class, pero Supreme Court lang ang magdidesisyon kung pwede. So, madalas nangyayari yan. Okay? Number 5, promulgate rules concerning the protection and enforcement of constitutional rights, pleading, practice, and procedure in all courts, the admission to the practice of law, the integrated bar, and legal assistance to the underprivileged. Such rules shall provide a simplified and inexpensive procedure for the speedy disposition of cases, shall be uniform for all courts of the same grade, and shall not diminish, increase, or modify substantive rights. Rules of procedure of special courts and quasi-judicial bodies shall remain effective unless disapproved by the Supreme Court. Appoint all officials and employees of the judiciary in accordance with the Civil Service Law. So class, binabasa ko lang para kahit paano magkaroon kayo ng idea. But if you have questions, just message me. Section 6, the Supreme Court shall have administrative supervision over all courts and the personnel thereof. Ito, importante ito class, para sa inyo to. Again, I will ask questions from this section. Section 7, no person shall be appointed member of the Supreme Court or any lower collegiate court unless he is a natural-born citizen of the Philippines. Diba? Tandaan nyo, parate, natural-born citizen of the Philippines. A member of the Supreme Court must be at least 40 years of age and must have been for 15 years or more a judge or a lower court or engaged in the practice of law in the Philippines. Class, ibig sabihin lang nun, dapat ikaw ay lawyer. Hindi ka naman pwede mag-practice ng law kung hindi ka lawyer or hindi ka judge or lower court, judge sa lower court. Okay? Number 2, the Congress shall prescribe the qualifications of judges of lower courts, but no person may be appointed judge thereof unless he is a citizen of the Philippines and a member of the Philippine Bar. Okay? So, pag ikaw ay magiging Supreme Court, dapat ikaw ay natural born. Number 3, a member of the judiciary must be a person of proven competence, integrity, probity, and independence. Section 8. Ito class, hindi naman masyado. All I have to do is read this for you. Okay? Number 1, a Judicial and Bar Council is hereby created under the supervision of the Supreme Court, composed of the Chief Justice as ex officio chairman, the Secretary of Justice, and a representative of Congress as ex officio members, a representative of the integrated bar, a professor of law, a retired member of the Supreme Court, and a representative of the private sector. Class, importante kasi ang Judicial and Bar Council. Sila kasi class, yung pumipili kung sino magiging judge or justices class. So sila yung nagche-check. Sila yung naghahanap o dun sa kanila nag-a-apply. Okay? The regular members of the council shall be appointed by the President for a term of 4 years with the consent of the Commission on Appointments. Of the members, first shall be appointed the representative of the integrated bar shall serve for 4 years, the professor of law for 3 years, the retired justice for 2 years, and the representative of the private sector for 1 year. Section 3. The clerk of the Supreme Court shall be the secretary of ex officio of the council and shall keep a record of its proceedings. Section 4. The regular members of the council shall receive such emoluments as may be determined by the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court shall provide in its annual budget the appropriations for the council. The council shall have the principal function of recommending appointees to the judiciary. Yan yung sinasabi nating pinaka-function niya. It may exercise such other functions and duties as the Supreme Court may assign to it. Okay? So, ang pinaka-principal function nila is to recommend appointees to the judiciary. Section 9. The members of the Supreme Court and judges of the lower court shall be appointed by the President from a list of at least 3 nominees prepared by the Judicial and Bar Council for every vacancy. Such appointments need no confirmation. For the lower courts, the President shall issue the appointments within 90 days from the submission of the list. The salary of the Chief Justice and of the Associate Justice of the Supreme Court and of judges of lower court shall be fixed by law. So, yun lahat dapat kung napapansin nyo class, sa ating gobyerno, lahat yan may batas, lalo na pag sweldo ang pinag-uusapan. During their continuance in office, their salary shall not be decreased. Section 11, the members of the Supreme Court and judges of lower court shall hold office during good behavior until they reach the age of 70 or become incapacitated to discharge the duties of their office. Class, tandaan nyo ha, 70 years ang retirement ng mga Supreme Court justices. The Supreme Court and bank shall have the power to discipline judges of lower courts or order their dismissal by a vote of majority of the members who actually took part in the deliberations on the issues in the case and voted thereon. So, sila lang ang pwede na maghusga o magdisiplin sa kanilang mga judges ng Supreme Court. Section 12, the members of the Supreme Court and of other courts established by law shall not be designated to any agency performing quasi-judicial or administrative functions. Class, hindi sila pwede, basta ang function lang nila as a Supreme Court. Hindi sila pwede mag-perform ng ibang function. Section 13, the conclusions of the Supreme Court in any case submitted to it for decision en banc or in division shall be reached in consultation before the case is assigned to a member for the writing of the opinion of the court. A certification to this effect, signed by the Chief Justice, shall be issued and a copy thereof attached to the record of the case and serve upon the parties. Any members who took no part or dissented or abstained from a decision or resolution must state the reason therefor. The same requirements shall be observed by all lower courts. Section 14, no decision shall be rendered by any court without expressing therein clearly and distinctly the facts and the law on which it is based. Class, ito ang importante class ha. Tandaan nyo class, pag kayo ay nagkakaso at nagkaroon ng kaso, parating yung titignan kung ano yung desisyon. Dapat dito class may basis. Parating may basis ang mga kaso natin. Ang desisyon ng Supreme Court, ang desisyon ng inyong korte, ng Municipal Trial Court, na Regional Trial Court, parati yang may basis. Hindi pa pwedeng wala at trip lang nila. Dapat may basihan ang kanilang desisyon. No petition for review or motion for reconsideration of a decision of the court shall be refused, due course, or denied without stating legal basis therefore. Parati yan, class. Remember, may mga batas tayo. Napakarami nating batas. So, any decision rendered, there should be basis. Section 15, all cases or matters filed after the effectivity of this Constitution must be decided or resolved within 24 months from the date of submission for the Supreme Court, and unless reduced by the Supreme Court, 12 months for all lower collegiate courts and 3 months for all other lower courts. Plus, sinasabi lang dito yung number of months na dapat nakakapag-decide. Dapat mabilis because justice delayed, justice denied. Number 2, a case for or matter shall be deemed submitted for decision or resolution upon the filing of the last pleading, brief, or memorandum required by the rules of court or by the court itself. Lahat to class, procedural lang. Kaya I'm just trying to read it for you. Upon the expiration of the corresponding period, a certification to this effect signed by the Chief Justice or the presiding judge shall forthwith be issued and a copy thereof attached to the record of the case or matter and serve upon the parties. The certification shall state why a decision or resolution has not been rendered or issued within said period. Despite the expiration of the applicable mandatory period, the court, without prejudice to such responsibility as may have been incurred in consequence thereof, shall decide or resolve the case or matter submitted thereto for determination without further delay. Section 16. The Supreme Court shall, within 30 days from the opening of each regular session of the Congress, submit to the President and the Congress an annual report on the operations and activities of the judiciary. Class, thank you for listening again. Madali ang judiciary. All you have to do, yung mga sinabi kong kailangan yung tandaan, qualifications of justices ng Supreme Court, yun lang naman yung kailangan yung maalala. And mga minor details lang. The rest, I've just read it thoroughly for you at konting explanation lang. So you just message me for questions. Study well, eat, pray, love. Thank you. God bless.